I'm here with Jesse Pilkington, and we're going to have a wonderful chat. Roll the intro. How's it going, Jesse?
No, it's going just like any other day.
So,
What's happening?
you jumped onto my, Ask Me Anything episode the other day, and I really appreciated that. So,
I know, I was very disappointed too, because I was the only one with a question.
you were the only one with a question?
Yeah.
What was that?
Where were the questions? The other day, they asked me anything. The chat was empty.
Yeah, I know, but it'll grow.
It's terrible.
A lot of people are afraid of cognitive dissonance.
That's true. Or no, they just don't want to learn anything.
Well, I mean, I don't want to make assumptions. We're here to attack any ideas, but I don't want to. I don't want to have the idea of thinking that people are ignorant or anything like that. I just think that people are commonly afraid of saying "I don't know." I mean, I've been that way for a long time, and it took me until after being out of college and going into professional life that you had to say, I don't know a lot. And then you're just like, well, that must be how life is.
Yep. You give me a few days to research that. We'll talk about it again.
Yep.
But as for right now, you win.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think this day and age people are just afraid of a difference in opinion because they don't know exactly how someone's going to take certain issues anymore.
Yeah. I can hear that. It's an uncomfortable feeling, but I think overall the effect is positive. Cognitive dissonance is kind of what I'm referring to. I mean, shoot.
Yeah.
How many times have you been wrong?
Let's see. Yeah, we were at the point of would you like my tally for the day or the week?
I think that it's a good thing to know when you do things wrong or when you mess up, but I don't know about keeping a tally.
Yep. Oh, I don't keep a tally, but I love being a smart ass and saying I do.
Yeah. So let's jump into a topic. Sent you just a couple. This is going to be mostly from the hip, but let's talk about Jordan Peterson. I sent you a couple videos, and you watched them. I watched one that I hadn't seen before from Scandinavian television or whatever. What'd you think?
I believe that was Canadian television, and she was from somewhere in Wales, is where she came to the interview from. But that I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with a guy that
what
hits on all the right points. I was trying to think how to word that. I mean, he hits on all the right points, and when somebody comes at him with just an answer that they haven't thought through, and he can just pretty much smack their hand and say, no, that's not right. And then they look at him like, well, yes, you are correct, sir. I apologize. It's kind of hard to argue with a guy like that. I would not want to be on the other end of a debate with him.
Yeah. I think that on the only time I've seen him really kind of get smacked around in a debate is with Sam Harris when he confronted him over religion and, belief and all that. But that's been the only thing I've seen him really definitively, quote unquote, smacked around or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw that one. I don't think I ever saw the Sam Harris interview. Which is that one of the ones debate that we watched, or
no?
Oh, okay, it was a debate.
It was a public debate, and there's been a couple of them. I think that there was one between just Jordan and Sam, and I think there was another one that was Jordan, Sam, and Ben Shapiro.
Which was... I remember the Sam Harris one being referenced in the one video that you'd sent.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I've ever seen that one personally.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just making the comment that he's a pretty strong debater. I mean, I did watch before, so his big controversy for people that don't know who Jordan Peterson is he's a he works in psychology, and I think that he has a PhD, and he teaches. He's a professor, and he's Canadian. And long story short, the thing that got him into a big uproar, and the reason that we even hear from this guy, is because he has a similar viewpoint to a lot of the narrative that is given on the right wing side on this, like pronouns situation, calling people by their correct pronouns in this. And essentially what he did is he went to Parliament there in Canada, and he very much protested, in a not in a ridiculous way. He wasn't like doing just walking outside and yelling obscenities or anything, but he sat in front of a panel for over an hour and explained why forcing people, to the tune of, if you don't, identify somebody by their correct gender, or if you misgender
Their preferred
somebody,
pronoun,
then it's considered a form of hate speech or like a microaggression or something of that nature. And I see his point. The point that he's trying to make is that you can't, it's dystopian and wrong for people to make public policies regarding language. It's just, I know that there's a ton of examples on how you make public policies related to language and that, like harassment, for example, but that's kind of generalized. That's not like saying specific words are acceptable, whereas other specific words are not acceptable, regardless of the case. So what are your thoughts on that, Jesse? Like, what are your thoughts on his stance?
I mean, I agree with him about 98% through that whole ideology he holds. I mean, how can you be walking through a mall or a supermarket and, I'm a little farsighted. I'm sorry, I'm a little nearsighted. So I back up just a little bit and I bump into someone as I'm trying to look at what's on the shelf for a price.
Yeah.
And I bump into someone in heels wearing a skirt. And I turn around and I say, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't mean to bump into you. Where I'm greeted with, that's not how I identify. Where do you go from there?
You just say, well, my bad, and you keep walking.
Exactly. You have no option at that point. I mean, you are put into a corner where no matter what you say to justify how they, certain individuals claim you misgendered them,
well,
is just ridiculous. I mean,
I think that
you
the
go with
reaction, and we've already talked about that, last time, was that the reaction in and of itself, beyond just a, kind of a surprised look or whatever, anything beyond that is just wrong any way you look at it. You're at that point just allowing yourself to be a toxic individual because somebody called you by the wrong thing or whatever. It's just absurd.
And then
it's a shitty worldview. I will not support it.
Yeah. And then, if you decide to respond to said individual after they make it clear you just wronged me, well, then you immediately become the party in the wrong.
So
for debating, or trying to stand up for why you said what you said.
Yeah, and I mean, my stance on it is, hey, I'm not just going to go out of my way to just be an asshole and purposely say, like Ben Shapiro does and has publicly, I'm not going to just purposely go out of my way to just, oh, you said that you're this, so I'm going to call you by this or something. But here's the fundamental thing. Like you said, what do you do after that? Is like, you can just say, oh, my bad, and continue on. Just like if I were to be incorrect about any other passing stranger, honestly, their
True.
problems, and I'm just going to be upfront about this. Any fucking passing stranger, unless I decide, right, that I want to go out of my way to do anything or to even care, it's not, I mean, being rude or whatever to just say, look, this might be like the most pressing issue in your life, but I could really give a flying fuck what your gender is. Honestly, like
Exactly.
I do
Especially
not
someone
care.
you do not know.
Yeah, I don't.
Especially someone you don't know.
Well, I'm not. Yeah,
What they do in their lives does not affect you. It does not affect me. If I do not know you personally, why are you making it a big deal about how we interact the one time I ever see you in my measly existence on this planet?
right.
Like,
And that's the big misconception, right? Is that because it's a big issue in their life, and granted, I'll be also upfront and say, hey, the LGBTQ, plus community or whatever, historically has not been treated very well, and that can obviously includes, people who are transgender or, probably to also include those that are these various other gender definitions that have, come up through, just studies and an expansion of gender studies in general. But the point being is like, because once again, because that's your shtick, or that's what your whole life revolves around, just like, a Jehovah's Witness may be different, right? Because we actually have scientific data to back up, this, the gender studies and that. But just for example, Jehovah's Witnesses in general, if they're super devout about their faith, like they want to go over and proselytize this whole viewpoint, and they want you to be just completely into Jehovah and tell your kids, all these absurd and, honestly kind of hateful in some ways things. How is it any different for that person to proselytize and people complain about that, but we're supposed to just care about gender studies when it doesn't affect us in any way? I'm a cis male, and I don't go out of my way to go, make anybody less legitimate than they already are. I try to let people do as they please, and hey, if I get something wrong, I'll say, hey, my bad, I said ma'am or sir or whatever. But I'm just so really tired of people thinking that because you're like didn't say the right thing, that all of a sudden their problems or whatever, or the way that they felt, no matter how logical that is, we already know that the human brain can make all of these different wrong assumptions. And it's up to us to determine, how do I act based upon the assumptions that I know could be false? You should probably be conservative about it and not be a complete asshole.
And here's the thing. I mean, you have, like you said, you're a cis male. Okay, define that for anyone who doesn't know.
I mean, once again, I want a caveat. I am not an expert on gender studies. I've read some stuff on the internet.
Neither am I, and I.
Right. So a cis male.
I'm just wanting you to clarify.
As far as I understand, a cis male, and I can look it up, I guess. Let's just look it up instead of coming off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, even I'm just saying, as you understand it. I would prefer you tell me as you understand, because this is the point I'm going to get across.
As I understand it, it is whatever my assigned sex is what I identify with.
So whatever your sex at
birth is what I identify
birth with. is how you identify. Okay, that's how I understand it as well.
Yes.
Now, I want you to look up a list of alternative pronouns. Okay, I guess this has been around for 5, 6, 7 years now.
I think it's been out longer than that, but
well, no, I'm just saying this list that I saw yesterday. There is Zim.
Yeah, like, I've seen some of these.
Just terminology that like you would never even like. I can understand, him, her, and then I've seen, some certain instances of people wanting to identify as non-binary. So if they don't want to identify as male or female, I have heard the term plenty of them or they being used to describe an individual, which doesn't make sense. Does it make sense logically? No. But
so here's what I'll look up. So list of since this is such a regularly charged issue, I'm regularly worried about even clicking on anything that's not a .org or a .gov, but even a .org sometimes can be some slimy ass conservative unit that just wants to misrepresent the issue. So I'm going to go to this healthguidance.org and look and see. Let's see they're about. Who are these mofos? Real quick.
But I mean, just the list of, I believe there were somewhere around 24 pronouns.
Yeah, and here we go.
That people would prefer to identify as. It's like, okay, I have one individual in front of me.
This is like a lot here. We'll go through them. I mean, we got time. Let's go through these. So A to D, terms A to D, and I'll just say what it is, and then the definition. So AFAB, which looks like it says an acronym, assigned female at birth. Agender, someone who doesn't identify with the idea or experience of having a gender. That's a little weird. Okay. Well, I'm not saying it's invalid. I'm just saying that's a weird stance to have.
But I think those are the people that they prefer their pronouns to be they or them, because they don't identify as male or female either.
I realize that, and
but that one I can understand. But yeah, you can continue, because I want to hear some of these others that I've probably not heard.
Okay, alia gender, a non-binary gender identity that doesn't fit into existing gender schemas or constructs. Now that I don't think that that in and of itself is, and I'm just going to say this, it's counter to what humans do. I'm just saying, like, that in and of itself, saying that you're not of any possible category. I'm not saying that you might feel that way, but you have to be in some sort of a category. Like, there's no way that you're not. You can't not be in a category. That's just how life is.
We've had three different gender identifications so far, correct?
Yes, but this one just is essentially like the catch-all bin. You know, you could just essentially just be like, I don't know what gender I am, and I'm not willing to make a decision, so I'm just alia gender, and then you don't make a decision, and it's not even about making decisions. Like, you have to feel about something. It's like,
but see, here's the thing,
nothing. Though. You're just a fucking.
That was number 3. Now go back and read the identification of what number 2 was again.
Agender.
Does that not?
Someone who doesn't identify with the idea or experience of having a gender. But I mean,
so that sounds exactly like number 3, correct?
No, because
to an extent.
I mean, it could. So somebody could be alia gender, but also agender, right? But they can't be like alia gender. I think is specifically for those that there's not a gender specified, but they don't identify with any of those genders. Which, I mean, I could maybe understand, like, they're just saying, hey, there's no definition and that exists, and all the definitions that do exist don't describe what I feel, maybe. Like, I could see that.
And the most extent vocabulary this world has ever known, yet I cannot find a word to describe my feelings.
I guess. That's what they're, in a way, saying. And I am just saying, like, obviously people feel this way, otherwise we wouldn't be reading about it. So AMAB.
Exactly.
So AMAB is what I was saying. So assigned male at birth. And then and I might butcher this here, so apologies. Androgyne, ANDRO, androgyne.
Androgyne, maybe. It's hard to.
ANDROGYNE. I think it's gyne for gyno.
No, that would be gyne then. Androgyne, yeah.
Okay, so someone who has a gender presentation or identity that's gender neutral, androgynous, or has both masculine and feminine characteristics. I've seen people like that.
Here's your
I
thing.
think
though.
that's very controversial.
Okay. No, it's not. But if I walked up to someone and this leads back to the same whole thing of, okay, can I identify your gender by your look? Okay, you have women that since the mid to early 80s have had a butch style haircut, correct?
Yeah.
It's been common hairstyle since then. It's personal preference. I don't care how you wear your hair. But if I walk up to you with a butch style haircut and I turn around and you have a set of double D's that are staring me in the face and we have a conversation for whatever it may be about, am I wrong for gendering you by that, by your presentation?
Once again, like, we have to determine what one means by wrong. Like, were you factually wrong? Maybe. But is it morally wrong? No. I mean, and once again, just because it's moral or immoral doesn't mean that it's against the law either. So definitely shouldn't be against the law at a minimum. Like, there's no fucking... I could understand what Peterson is saying, kind of rolling this back to Peterson, is like, regardless, I mean, we'll keep reading some of these. I might skip around because, I mean, we'll be here all night. But the point is like, regardless of all these, pronouns, and I don't even care. Go over and put 300 other pronouns up there that won't affect me in any way, and I don't care the number of pronouns. That makes no difference to me. I'm an engineer.
Exactly.
Engineers have all kinds of crazy definitions, and that's a part of my world. So that is fine. If we have a very specific and varied striation of people that exist that have all these different gender identities, let's get some fucking definitions, motherfuckers. Let's do it. But here's a question, a legit question, and then we'll continue on with some more. What do they do in Latin-speaking countries? I'm just curious. Like, so La Hacienda, right?
La or El?
Yes. How do you... So the whole language stems upon these gender stereotypes. I can almost imagine... Are they going to eventually start saying, hey, we can no longer speak this language because it's inherently
exactly, because
gender
half of
whatever.
I think it... I don't know if I'm going to say half, but I'm going to say probably 30% of their language is based on the L or La. I mean, because certain words have different meanings based on that, and it's not even gender-based.
I mean, some of it very much is, though. I mean,
yeah, some of it, but I'm saying, but they use the L and the La in a lot of their culture that is not gender-based either, just to identify different things.
Yeah, I guess so.
And those are different words. So how do let's see? The question isn't. I guess.
Well, I'm just saying. So, like, in a case where, so like, we are put in that situation very as often, I would say. It's like what other cultures that do have those language rules. So I'm just saying, like, are there currently right now, just for a wild example, is there some Mexican guy that's walking down the street and he's, says, la whatever to some person that looks to them, to be female? Would they take like the same reaction? Would they, get all up in arms and be freaked the fuck out that you just had a microaggression towards me because you said la whatever the hell it is?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, It just, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. We've been going on, but man, it blows my mind that people can, they have this justification in their mind and they'll just run with it. But then when it comes out in the end, quite frankly, all you really did was, one, make yourself look like a jackass, and two, cause a negative stereotype towards the cause that you're trying to be pissed about.
Yep. And I got one more final thought on this, and I have one request before we move on, which was the point I was trying to get across to this whole thing. But since you brought up the whole, as far as Spanish speaking language,
yeah,
is someone in a couple years going to go, oh, you misgendered the season because it was
no, I don't
warm.
think so.
It was a warm season, and it was classified as an El Nino instead of you know how that shit goes. But that's what I'm saying. You gender this, you got to gender that. I mean, it's ignorance.
Yeah.
But now the only request I have, I don't care about definitions, but just so people that don't actually know about this, just go down the list and just name a few of the oddest pronouns you come across. Because if someone identifies a certain way, like, how would you even know this when you've never heard the term?
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm just going to say, because once again, I will fully admit I'm a bit shielded in some ways, you know, like I don't go and regularly hang out and I'm all for it. You know, let's have a hangout sometime. Let's talk about it. Come onto the show and educate me. But ultimately, I'm not, there's some of these, ultimately, I'll just be upfront. A weakness of my character, I'll probably laugh at it. That's not to say that it's not valid or whatever. It's just, I've never heard of it, and it seems at first maybe a little ridiculous to me. So just being upfront. So let's go. Let's do this.
Just scroll down the list and give me the top 10 as you come across them that are just something that, you know, you've never even heard of. So how would you know to gender a person as such? Is what I'm getting across.
Wow. Okay. This one, this is almost the same as what we've already seen, but another word for it, which is, once again, we're kind of causing some confusion here. Demi-gender. This umbrella term typically includes non-binary gender identities, which I understand that, you know, like you're saying you're not specifically male, you're not specifically female, you know, but it's saying it uses the prefix demi to indicate the experience of having a partial identification or connection to a particular gender. And here's some examples. Demi-girl, demi-boy, demi-NB, and demi-trans.
I mean, all that does is it says to me that they just took something from Greek mythology and tried to say I can be two things at once. Hate to be that guy if I offend anyone by saying it, but that's what it tells me. Is you're yet again refusing to identify either way, and then trying to justify that with a new term.
Yeah, and I don't want, like, I understand, like, the complaint there, but that still doesn't, like, they still do deserve a valid distinction as to what they are, though. Every person and group should have that.
But see, we're only one N of the 10, which I didn't even want you to get through 10 because I knew the first one was going to make the point. Then let's make this public knowledge.
Oh wow!
Let's have the
gender. Here's what you were talking about: gender neutral pronouns. They have them all listed. It says these pronouns aren't stereotypically or culturally categorized as male or female, masculine or feminine, or for men or women. Gender-neutral pronouns are used by both cisgender and transgender individuals as a way to affirm and convey important information about who they are and how they want to be referred to. I wish they would actually extrapolate even more information on this, because even these are confusing, and I'll get into that in just a second, because I'm not sharing this on my screen, so I'm just reading this, so I don't want it to be lost here. So examples include... So these make sense right here. No problems with these. They, them, theirs. No problem.
Yes. Someone who does not identify either way, then you're
right
addressing it that direction.
And
yes,
I'm just
I agree
saying,
with that.
Like, from now on, essentially the Jordan Peterson argument is like, it's going to become probably now more common. And I don't care either way. I'm just making an observation, not a complaint. But it's from now on, I feel compelled to change my social norm to just refer to people as they, them, and theirs, just as default, rather than even try to ever gender a person, period, in anything I say. Unless I know the person,
Exactly.
of course.
So in society, if we don't know an individual and we greet them, we should have one way to greet them, correct? As person.
Yeah.
Once you identify your gender to me, then
Hey, person.
I know how to address you. Well, I mean,
you could technically do that just to every person.
Is everyone not a person, or is everyone
They
which it would
identify
sound
as not a person? I don't know.
It would sound ignorant, but if you go back to okay, look at Demolition Man, the movie, as a reference. Okay,
Yeah.
they're so uppity and they don't touch. Could you not see that movie going when they greet each other, hello individual, until you know how to address that person?
Well, we could be like the Russians. Hello, comrade. We just create
exactly. Just
the Russians were already set up. See, they were already set up for this problem.
Yep. They had this
the
figured out.
Marxists fucking won. No, they
had this figured out. They had this figured out in '39. Damn it! Where the hell did we go wrong?
Oh man!
All right,
but here's the ones that I can't. Just real quick, these are the ones that I can't get my mind around of what situation. And like I said, if somebody's watching this video and you're highly triggered or whatever, or not triggered at all, and just want to educate, let me know how or what situation I'm supposed to use these pronouns. So
send a message. We will be glad to listen to your point of view and understand.
Right.
No criticism whatsoever. It's understanding.
Well, that doesn't mean
the opposite
somebody
point
posts
of view.
Something, I'm still probably going to have. It's a public forum.
Exactly.
So
open discussion.
May or may not criticize it, but if people have the actual,
there's a difference between a debate and exchanging ideas and openly criticizing someone, saying, "Hey, no." So it's really not criticism, but
so ZHIR, which I'm guessing her.
I don't know. These are the ones I'm getting at.
Hers?
Like you have one that almost reaches the point where you're. You have one that almost throws up to the. Yeah, and then you have one that throws. I think it's air. So you're
zers, and I don't know how you would say it differently with an X, but it's maybe gers or gzers, like that's.
Yeah, and I apologize for my 30 seconds of rambling there, about a minute ago, but that's how confused it gets me, and I want to get that point across. Like how, when you're giving me things like that no one in the, the world outside of your own community has ever heard of, how could you hold me accountable for not using the proper definitions?
Here's one: gender fuck. Similar to the term gender bender, gender fuck involves the act of combating or dismantling the gender binary and stereotypes through a gender identity expression or presentation that challenges existing norms and expectations in a given cultural context. So you're a gender troll, essentially. That's what I just read. Like they're just challenging via trolling, essentially, like to have some gender as a protest.
Well, it's like if I walked up behind you in a mall, Jason, that's for instance, and you're wearing your sandals.
Yeah.
Your shorts. I mean, hell, I've known you long enough. I know you don't have a whole lot of hair on the back of your calves. And a t-shirt. Well, sometimes you wear your hair in a ponytail. If I was walking faster than you, I said, "Excuse me, ma'am," and passed you. Yeah, you wouldn't really be that offended. You'd just be like, "Well, that wasn't, the ideal interaction I wanted to have, but am I going to cause a scene about it? No."
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like we've talked quite a bit about this. Going on 36 minutes, but
I know, but I mean, it could go so much longer, but you're right. We have kicked this horse as much as we possibly can.
Well, I'm just saying, I really want to emphasize to people that are listening, if you're just rolling your eyes like, man, they've got on this for a while. Nobody interacts with the show just about. So if you know the answer, by all means, put it in the comments. Where this is supposed to be a actual forum where we're trying to talk about these, things, and we fully admit that we're not experts. We're just having the discussion, because unless we do, there's just going to be continued misinformation out there. We're not trying to just misrepresent what it is. We're just saying, hey, we're not educated on this. And it seems like, the way that people react, we're supposedly supposed to be just majorly, educated on this subject, supposedly. But I'm just saying, hey, it's not really that apparent what exactly is going on. So either one thing has got to be, or one thing definitely needs to happen is, for one, people have got to be hella a lot more patient. And two, it's like, I think that maybe there should be a little bit more organization in this, and people coming together and deciding, what pronouns make sense, rather than just gobbledygook bullshit that just random people come up with.
Yeah, I mean, we're not educated on this. What we're doing is, exchanging our opinions based on individual research, and we send each other different things.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I just found a good article on this, or a good video where intellectuals are debating certain things. You watch this, form your opinion, and then we'll talk about it.
Sure.
It's not, we're not forcing ideas on anyone. It's just a simple, this is my thought. And if you have a difference in opinion, I would love to hear it. You may change my mind.
Sure. So moving to another hot topic, and not the store, is minimum.
But I like Hot Topic. They sell some really good novelty beer mugs.
Including mugs that say Epstein didn't kill himself.
Do they have that one now?
And on that note, I'm going to change the scene. Come along, crowd. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the minimum wage. And the whole debate. And I mean, this is a pretty big topic, so I don't even know where to kind of start here.
I love this debate, because this is one where, we just agreed on everything for the last 30 some odd minutes. But this is where we heavily disagree. So this is going to be a great one.
Sure. So I think that in the current system that we are stuck in, hold on a second. There's that throat tickle again. Keep coughing. Yep. Anyhow.
I went and grabbed a whole gallon of Sunny Delight to keep mine at bay.
So in the current system that we're in, this is just assuming that we, in the foreseeable future, probably won't be able to make any large changes to the system. That being said, I think raising the minimum wage is a good idea, but I don't think that it's going to fix the problem long term, because the problem really doesn't have a lot specifically to do with the topic of minimum wage. It has to do with a lot of much larger issues that, trickle down and affect the wage and, poverty and businesses and the economy.
And see, we could tie this into another topic we had talked about maybe getting into, which is unionization.
Sure.
So we kind of did this ass backwards. We should have hit unions before minimum wage, but we've already started.
Well, I think minimum wage it's really the same topic, right? Because
it kind of is.
So the reason that the minimum wage gets raised isn't because of non-union workers. Non-union workers don't have the organized power to raise or lower the minimum wage, really. Like, they can certainly elect representatives, as individuals, but they don't have bargaining power.
True.
So the labor unions are the ones that push for the raise in minimum wage, and ultimately the labor unions are the ones that are going to benefit from this the most, because they're already getting paid hand over fist what people that aren't a part of these unions
right
can get paid. And of course, like, the most successful unions are the ones that have people that have skills that allow them to be able to negotiate in the first place. Just a Joe Schmo. I don't know. It might exist. Certainly correct me if I'm wrong here, but do we have maybe in New York City? Who knows? But do we have like janitor unions? I know we have garbage truck guy unions.
Well, so yeah, we have teachers unions, we have sanitation unions. Now, see, I'm a member, and the only reason I am a member, and I am a member of BCTM, Bakery and Confections Union. But do you know the only reason I'm a member of that union?
Why?
They have not done one thing for me in the 5 years I have worked at my current employment. But I'm not the kind of person that if I ever came around and I actually needed them as representation, to be represented for nothing. So I pay my dues. That is the only reason I am a member of the union. Because where I work, I am paid weekly. I pay $9 per paycheck to be a union member. And over half the plant are in the union. But do you know what happens if you're not a union member?
What? What's that?
You still get the exact same representation. You have all the exact same rights.
Well, until Biden's plan goes in.
Well, I mean, if we actually made unions national institutions that, were for the betterment of the worker, I would be against his plan. But the crap shot little unions we have now that are all about profits, can't really say I'm a fan.
Well, I know, and here's the reason. And I am, hopefully he's listening. I don't know if he listens to my stuff or not, but Tyler Mills, I'm going to be talking with him as a guy I worked with over at when I was working for that telemarketing job or whatever.
One of the ones you had going through the old college days?
No, that was like after the college days. It's just that area back there. Like there's a reason you moved. It's not a great area for finding a great job.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So anyway.
You're talking about that little crap hole in Keokuk, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's pretty bad. I mean, Temple was the same way. I mean, there's a reason you moved north and I moved south. Yeah. I mean, opportunities are minuscule.
Right. Even as a person that has a trade skill, and even prior to having my degree, I had a trade skill that I was taught through the Marines. So I'm just saying, like, I very much am in a great position to talk about unions because I've actually worked at union plants. I've worked at a union plant while they were locked out, and I don't see anything whatsoever fucking wrong with that because, first of all, their dumbass is the freaking reason they were locked out in the first place.
Yep.
I heard how those negotiations went, and I've also heard the lies they've been telling new people that join that union and lies that they tell all their members about how that whole negotiation went down. Those dumbasses deserved to be locked the fuck out. And I'm glad they were.
To get them to rise up and say, oh, no, we don't want this contract.
I mean, they didn't even show up to the negotiations until the very last one. And then they wanted to go over and start making huge demands. And the company was just like, dude, we came to these negotiations. Every single, I don't even know but I'm just saying, over the course of 2 months, they had a number of scheduled meetings with lawyers and everything to meet with the union and negotiate a contract. And they decided to not show up to any of those and then show up to the very last meeting before they were saying, if you don't agree, you're getting locked the fuck out. And they just wanted to come in there, raising all hell and swinging their dicks around. And they got taught what it means to be a fucking dumbass. Out on the fucking street, that's what. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Frito-Lay is kind of the same way. With you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. We've got our union right now. Like I said, I am a part of because, I don't want free representation from anyone. I don't want free anything. If I get something, I'm more than happy to pay for it.
I denied it. I didn't pay. So the story continues on. And once again, I'm just as much a citizen of this country and have actually served my country, by the way. You know, for all these naysayers that want to just be like, oh, you're a scab or a rat, dirt. It's like, listen, dude, this is America. I have just as much right to go to that job as you do. And it doesn't, you know, when it comes down to it,
and
I've already proven
there is nothing
that I'm a more valuable worker because I've gone to college.
Yes.
And I'm just saying, so for somebody to say that anything about, oh, well, they're not as valued or they're this or that, all of the arguments that they have that are the normal, you know, regurgitated parroting, you know, union guy that comes up and tries to say, well, non-union workers are this or that. Listen here, bucko. You're delusional. You have no clue what the fuck you're talking about.
That's like, I've never been written up. I said in my whole 5-year tenure.
Yeah.
But when I'm bullshitting with my supervisor, which I'm one step below the supervisor, and I'm like, hey, you know, he goes, you know, if I ever had to write you up, who would you want for a union steward? I'm like, well, no one. Why? Well, you know, you're even if you're not union, and he never expected me to be. I said, no, I'm a part of the union. But why do you ask? He goes, well, I just, you know, want to know who you'd want you to have for your union steward. I'm like, how old am I? He goes, well, what's that? What's that do to anything? I said, well, how old am I? We hire all of our management straight out of tech schools, and most of them don't even have degrees in what they're overseeing.
Yeah, that's common.
But you know, he's 23 years old. And he goes, well,
that's just American industry.
Yeah, I go, God damn it, I'm almost 32 years old. I said, what? Why would you think I needed a union representation if you needed to write me up? He goes, well, I mean, you know, everybody else, as soon as, you know, they get a write up, they start screaming union steward. I said, here's my question to you. And his name, we call him Chew. I said, Chew, here's my question to you. Did I do it? He goes, I don't know. Did you? I said, if that's your response, then guess what? I'm not taking that write up.
Yeah.
But if you can prove that I did it, guess what? I'm an adult. Write me up. I'll sign it now. Well, yeah. I said that's how this shit should be operated. You don't. If you're guilty of what you're accused of, guess what? You're taking your write up and you're moving on, going back to your job.
Well, the thing that's just utterly dumb about it, anyway. This is what's dumb about it. I've worked in maintenance, and I'll tell you. Mm-hmm. So, but beyond just when I worked over there during the lockout, I later then went on to work there as an electronics technician. And, you know, like full-on employee, whatever. And same situation you're talking about. Like, I had all the rights technically to the union after working my 90 days or whatever the time period is. But every single time, hey, they were essentially forced to be there. I couldn't make them not essentially be there, certainly. But I told them very much up front, I don't want you to speak for me. I don't want any of your services. I can speak for myself. I'm more than capable of reading a HR document or a contract or whatever the hell it is. And I did. I'm capable of reading that in the 3 months.
And I can decide for myself. Yeah. And I can decide for myself whether I'm right or wrong.
And then so people, hold on. So this even adds on to this. This adds on to this. Okay. First of all, I will say that I was treated actually pretty well. I just want to say that I was not mistreated really hard. I mean, pretty much didn't have any mistreatment in comparison to any other person that worked there. So I don't want anybody to think that I just have a sour, you know, disposition because I felt like I was mistreated. Nope. Actually, I learned, you know, plenty there. I grew in my career and, you know, I ended up going somewhere else where I got paid more to do the same exact thing, which was a non-union job, by the way. But here's the point that I was going to make. Here's the point that I was going to make. Everybody wants to say, oh, well, if you're not a part of that union, your life's going to be complete shit, which it wasn't. And two, if you ever fuck up, they're just going to fire you. Well, that's wrong too, because I've
Exactly.
actually messed up once, and I admitted that I messed up. I wired a motor in backwards. So if you switch any of the leads on a three-phase motor, it's going to go backwards from what it's, maybe supposed to. And on this case,
Yes.
it was on a pump that, the impeller spun off of it and broke the housing, and it was like $36,000 to replace that whole entire situation. And of course, I got regular shit like anybody else would get shit in the shop about it. So once again, no real mistreatment. If anybody messes up, you get shit. That's just life. So once again, not a problem with that. But you know what? When the manager came up to me and said, "Do you know what happened?" And I said, "Yep, I didn't mark my wires, and I wired that motor up incorrectly, and it ran backwards and, did cause the whole problem, and I apologize." I didn't get a single write-up. I didn't have a problem with losing my job. And in fact, that person told me that they respected me for just admitting to it, where most of the union people don't admit to it and then fight them on it and act like a jackass about it. So that's really just something that I really wanted to say, is like these misconceptions of you're going to get fired if you messed up or whatever. It may be the case, once in every case is possible. But here's the thing. It pays off to be honest and just admit that you did wrong, because most people will respect you for it, and you don't need a union for that.
Exactly. And the union is there, honestly, in my opinion, to fight for the people that honestly can't ever admit they're wrong.
Yeah. I've had people that I know for a fact that they damaged a machine or unscrewed something so that it wouldn't work, just so they could just take a break and not work and not do anything.
Yeah. And then, how'd you do this? And they pull the union card instead of getting a write-up. Well, that may get you out of the initial write-up, but now you have a track record of, well, you're kind of screwing the pooch here, so now you're on the watch list.
Yeah. But I'm just, and ultimately, talking about minimum wage, unions are the ones that benefit off of the minimum wage, because they can then use additional laws from Citizens United, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe that. I believe that's correct. I was watching a video earlier on that, and I think you're right.
Essentially, Citizens United allows for this whole fair wage situation. And then once you have, or prevailing wage. So if you raise the minimum wage, then that gives them justification to raise the prevailing wage. So ultimately, the people who are already not poor, union workers in general are just,
exactly.
They may not be making as much as, a Jeff Bezos, or nobody's making as much money as Jeff Bezos, but they're not like
a bastard.
They're not like some New York executive or something like that makes a couple $1 million a year, but they're not hurting, It's benefiting those people more already. So you're essentially making it so that the upper middle class, which should be our middle class, but it's right now the upper middle class, just gets even more on the upper middle class, and everybody just gets left behind.
I mean, they raised the minimum wage to $15. Guess what? I'm going to make $35.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it will automatically, bring us to. And then guess what happens when I make $35? Your $3.29 bag of potato chips just went from there to $6.49 to cover my wage.
See that?
So now your cost of living increases again. No, that's the way it works. Like they base our products off of wage.
Maybe
like
for Frito-Lay, but across the board, that is not true.
It depends on the materials used to produce what is supplied, I guess. I mean, and when it comes to potato chips, I mean, there's a very small profit margin.
Okay. I would just have to say I would look into some research on that, because like Amsterdam, I think, is the one that I'm specifically thinking of. People get paid like $22 an hour at McDonald's, but yet the Big Mac is only like 30 cents more than what we pay in America, where they get paid $7.25.
And then that's an entirely different, part of the world and industry. I mean, I think we kind of touched on this the last time too. But it.
Seattle, though, I mean, Washington State, they had the same phenomena in our own economy. I'm just saying that it doesn't work out. Frito-Lay, maybe specifically, like I'm not going to argue that. Hey, if they have a business board and their board says, hey, we're going to do it because of this, I can't argue that. But economically, if you look at the studies, it's not the case that things raise significantly based on wage.
You take delivery industry, regardless. All right. A case of beer. You know how much that case of beer raises every year?
No, I'm sure it raises, but I don't know how much.
Roughly, and this is where people are going to be shocked. Roughly, a case of beer, an individual case, when you buy it from a distributor, goes up about 80 cents every single year.
Really?
But do you see the expenses go up in the store?
Well, there's a reason for that.
Well, this is the reason I'm giving you. It's to choke out small business or make the bars more expensive.
So ultimately, I think that you're going to not disagree with me here. I think you're going to agree with me, and you're coming. I have a quick path to your same point. So ultimately, I don't think that the prices change that much, and it's not because like I agree with your correlation there. Like if we were to pay people more money, and they're making the same product, then they would have to. If they're paying more money for making that product, they would have to raise the price. But here's the thing. Is all raising the minimum wage is going to do, and also what unions also do, piggybacking off the union thing, is it's not going to change the price that much, but just far less people are going to have jobs, and there's going to be far more small business.
Yeah, that's where it bumps back around to. But that's where you see the small business go out and the dive bar disappear, in favor of all these bigger establishments, because you know how much Busch Light a Hy-Vee is going to sell in a week? Probably 300 cases. And that's on the low end of smaller town.
Yeah.
You know what they sell that for right now? $14.99.
Huh.
I'm just saying rough estimate from what the inflation on the beer was. Do you know what they pay for that case of beer?
What?
Probably $14.25 right now. So they're making 75 cents a case off that beer. Buying 94 cases at a time, a full pallet buy. Then you wonder why when you go into a bar and they charge you $3.50 for one can. Well, that's because bars have to carry a hell of a lot larger profit margin, because they're not going to put that beer in an ad. And the guy that's going to come in to grab his beer to barbecue is going to say, hey, while I'm here, instead of making the extra stop, I'm going to buy my steaks. I'm going to buy my charcoal. Yeah. One-stop shop. Might as well get it all. But then, like I said, you wonder why you go into a bar and your can of beers went from $2 to $3.50, or in some instances $4. Because that bar might only have 7 or 8 regulars that come in and drink Busch Light. So instead of buying a full pallet at that price, they're paying almost $23 to $24 a case. So $1 a beer, as to the 55 to 60 cents, because they're not buying it in bulk. I mean, it's the same thing, so why should I be charged more for the same can,
Well, I think that plays into kind of like the convenience fee, right? So like, how do convenience stores and convenience, like vending machines, how does that price justify itself? And you're paying for the ambiance, right? It may be a shitty ambiance, pick your bar as well, but the point is you're paying for the ambiance, and you're paying to be at the watering hole while everybody else is at the watering hole.
True, but what if you're that bigger establishment, all right, and you want to have profit margins that are equal,
yeah,
But if I can afford to put 100 cases of Bud Light in my cooler at $16 a case, and the bar down the road, that's why you see those bigger places. Happy hour, $2 a can all day long on Saturdays. Because guess what? They just threw a whole pallet in their cooler.
Yeah.
They're already making the exact same profit margin. But since I have a little more space than you, I can sell it cheaper. And then I'm going to steal your clientele on a Saturday, even though, that might be your preferred watering hole. But guess what? You're going to come down to mine because you can drink twice as much for about the same price.
Every time I hear watering hole, I think, somebody poisoned the water hole.
Somebody poisoned the well, fellas. Get on out of there now.
Oh, man.
It's terrible, but it's funny.
I can't wait to get all vaccinated so that I can go out and do things again. It's kind of nice to go to the watering hole every once in a while, not worry about getting some crap. Could damage your lungs.
Here's the thing, though. You're gonna get vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What does that do for you?
Well, it at least makes it so that if I get either of the strains, it'll make it less, and I'm all for that. But I mean,
less effective on you personally, right?
What do you mean? So like if I get sick, I won't get as sick because my body has built up an immune response.
Okay, but you're still going to have to go out with a mask, right?
Yeah, and I think that's just going to be a social norm, just like China.
Well, I didn't say that, and that's just, the vaccine individually, yes, okay. If everyone gets vaccinated, fine, we're done with it. But no, the point is, they still want to say, well, even though you've been vaccinated, you are still a carrier, you're still a transmitter. It doesn't matter if you have it, don't have it, you still have to wear a mask. So then where does the point of the vaccine come into play?
Because it'll reduce the number of people that die overall.
Exactly. So
I mean, that sounds like a positive effect.
Well, no, it is. But if you can't get vaccinated and then go out in public without having to adhere to the same things that everyone else is doing, what was the purpose of that vaccine?
Once again, it's because two things that one thing that needs to be mentioned is that there's a more virulent strain out there that is there to be worried about, and that you are not protected against with some of the vaccines. But another thing to mention is, yeah, you might have to wear a mask, and people always very often focus on this, these inconveniences of social distancing and masks, which I get, but ultimately, we're still going to be saving lives, and that's what we're trying to do. So, if we have to still do those things regardless, hey, I guess we got to do them. But if I can do something so that it either saves my life or it makes it to where I don't give that to somebody so that their life is put into danger, then I'm going to do it because it's for the better good.
So did you get your point across there?
No, yeah. I mean, I think I did.
You did.
That's just my stance.
We just proved a point to everyone that cares to listen to this discussion.
Sure.
A simple question can educate you on something you may not have looked at prior.
Sure.
Difference of opinion doesn't always mean, can't talk to you. You can kiss my ass.
Well, I mean, you can kiss my ass, but.
Well,
I'm just joking. So what do you have to say about automation? Switching her up on you.
I'm not against automation. I mean, we are behind on automation.
Well, there are naysayers out there that say that automation is not a positive force and is taking people's jobs. And what are people going to do if they don't have a job? Isn't that immoral, Jesse? Taking people's jobs? I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Oh, well, I'm aware. But here's the thing. If I'm paying you a wage now, and you demand a $4 an hour raise to continue to do the same job you've lived comfortably on for the last 10 years, yet I can buy a robot that within 5 years I can pay for and no longer have to pay it to do the same job at your current wage rate, why would I not automate? Because the cost of running a robot never rises.
Yeah.
The electricity may change. The cost of maintenance may change slightly, depending on demand for parts or this and that. But as wages rise, why would automation not take over?
Well, I mean, I can agree from that standpoint, but I mean, so I can even take a moral standpoint on this. Like, I would say that not implementing automation on every single task that we could possibly implement it on, and very, very specifically, prioritizing tasks in which people are put in danger or there's a long-term effect, negative effect on their health, we should do it. Like, there's a moralistic prerogative to do that. And to say that, well, people are profitable enough without automation, so let's not, I don't care about their profits or whatever. It's like, look, I'm not talking from a profit perspective. And for one, it's kind of a weird way to peg me anyway. Like, I could give a flying fuck about anybody's profits.
But,
I mean, I guess
but from a
technically the place I work, I have to, but
yeah, but from a simple safety perspective, you
Yeah.
can get rid of, if you can get rid of 80% of your hazard risk by automating certain aspects of your operation, why would you not?
Yeah, and I mean, perfect example. A place that I've worked before, they had a inspection that was done every single night on this kind of like, I don't know. It was just a part of the process, and fluid came out of a pipe. And long story short, they had to look for it for a specific color. Like, they wanted it to be clear, obviously, but if it was green, it meant this, and if it was green, brown or black or whatever, it meant another thing. Just being as
certain
generic
contamination
as I can
within the system,
right? Is being as generic as I can because of non-disclosure. But
yeah,
point being is that company would much rather, first of all, one of those chemicals that was in there, very commonly we knew it was in there, and everything was, classified for this specific purpose, was acid, and a very caustic form of acid, a burn you pretty bad if you got it on your skin. They don't want people doing a visual inspection of this. They would rather a sensor just does a, kind of like takes in a specific
fluid analysis,
spectrum, a certain color spectrum that they're looking for. And it's probably going to do that job better and even faster than what the human could do it. Or, the person or the technician or the operator or whatever. So, like, that specific example is just a real world example of, okay, whose job are you trying to save here, and at what cost? Are you saving jobs because you think that it's immoral for people to suffer because they're poor or something like that? It's like, well, hold on. Why don't you do a little bit of, research? And I'm not being sarcastic here, but like, you have to step outside the box. Unions and unions push for more automation. So that's another thing is like, could you even be pro-union and also pro-automation at the same point? Because unions push automation inherently by raising all of the wages on people who are already, once again, not really suffering.
Yep.
So there's just this really large moral argument that is just kind of a question mark that I have, a really big one. Is like, where do people get this where they can actually try to take some moral stance on unions for one, and then on top of that, against automation?
Well, our union president, he gets on all the time and spews, "Oh, if we don't get this contract improved, that puts us at the bottom of the labor market for our area."
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but our whole warehouse is driven by forklifts.
Yeah.
I run an automated system myself, but the old warehouse I worked in is all ran by manual forklifts.
Yeah.
A forklift driver at our plant makes, I believe it's 20.45 an hour.
Wow.
I can go 3 miles down the road to the Home Depot plant, and their forklift drivers make 17.25. So our guys make $3.25 more an hour. Yet you're making the false claim that we are going to be at the bottom of the labor market if they don't get a raise.
Yeah.
How do you justify that?
Because they're basing it on competitions with other unions, maybe. I don't know.
And it's a possibility, I guess. You could look at it that way. But you can't say you're going to be at the bottom of the labor market for your area when within 3 miles I can give a guy doing the exact same job $3.25 less and prove you wrong.
Yeah.
You kind of lose your argument there.
Yeah. But yeah, I really, my whole entire goal is to get people to come to conclusions for, first of all, for good reasons, and also just really challenge people to do good research, because I'm just going to say it's pretty sad that quite often just a very brief Google search, and it's not even like I'm, doing this in a just as I'm not like just some complete, basic bitch that just, goes over and tries to find whatever specific information to disprove, whatever somebody said because I have some preconceived notion. It's that,
Yeah, I want the facts of the matter. I don't want to just find one instance of
yeah,
where someone says, "Hey, you're wrong," and I've proven it.
right. And I'm not like
If
a lot of people could just um, pin me specifically. I mean, I can't speak for other people, but pin me specifically for just being kind of like an adversarial individual, and I'm just trying to just be adversarial, I guess, and it's not the case. It's like
well,
people
you're
just very
you're kind of
commonly do bad research.
you're kind of like the prove me wrong guy. The only difference is if you're proven wrong, you admit it.
Yeah. Yeah. Steven Crowder, he is not an honest actor. I regularly kind of watch those channels just because a lot of times you'll watch and you'll just be like, wow, these are quite often the arguments that I hear online from people. Like it just makes you think, I don't think they're necessarily just getting it from him, but it seems like a lot of people are in their own social media bubble and they don't ever
Yeah,
escape it for any reason.
yeah. They don't have a sense of difference of opinion. It's say this is how we feel, this is what we think, and if you differ, then guess what? You're terrible.
Yeah. So just to give an idea of like how to break that, because a lot of people are like, haha, it's like, thanks, dude. It's easy to just point out issues and, not give solutions. So here's a solution. I'm sure plenty of people have heard, oh man, you're just in your bubble and you won't do this, you won't do that. Here's how you break out of that bubble. And you can do it right now. If you have Facebook, you have, I don't know, it might be a little more difficult on Instagram or Snapchat, but Reddit, you could certainly do it. But the point and probably Twitter, but the point I'm going to make is just making an effort to find various points of argument that you regularly bring up. Like if you're a person that just regularly posts stuff about guns and just being a super big gun nut for, just using a specific case, it could be the same thing about religion. It could be the same thing about, I don't know, a less controversial topic like cars or something. Make it your effort to just go out and find a group and or page of something you think that you're probably going to disagree with and try to do some research into it and give it a good listen and give it a good actual try, an intellectual honesty. And I think that you'll probably learn something. I mean, sure, you might learn things that you still disagree with, but at least at that point, you can honestly say that you know what the opposition is and what the opposition argument is. And you're not misrepresenting it because you're being told it by freaking, Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder.
That was the reference I was going to bring up too. Like if you go at it that way, you have one person you agree with, and if all you do is religiously watch that person, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I lost you for a second. I had a not responding error, but we're still good. But yeah, if you don't at least consider a difference of opinion, then you're never going to broaden your horizon. I mean, you're going to be stuck in the same loop that you've been in.
Yeah. I saw an article today, getting back to just automation here. I know we took a little bit of a sidetrack there, but I saw this article, and I think I might have even posted something on it. Let me look here, but I'll summarize while I'm looking for it here. Essentially, the thing that I saw was that, and it looks like, here it is, okay. Citing unfair, I thought this was kind of amusing. If you read through this whole article, I won't read through it verbatim here, but citing unfair labor practices, 1,300 steelworkers strike in 5 states. And if you look down, it says, although it expects to rebound in 2021, recent filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission reveal ATI, which is the company that they're unionized, I don't know in opposition necessarily, but it's a company that the union works with, like
Okay.
employees work for that company, but through the union, however you properly state that. But anyhow, it says that they've lost money each of the last 3 quarters. The same report finds that the company has reduced company-wide employment levels by approximately 1,400 people, or about 17% of our total workforce. Many of those layoffs have been union jobs. Before a 2015 labor dispute that led to a lockout, workers say there were approximately 2,200 bargaining unit employees. Now there are just 1,300, with management proposing to close more plants and to make further cuts. And this guy dishonestly says they're trying to break the union and that the management is a tyranny of evil men. I can't even.
They're trying to break the union.
Oh my gosh. They're just installing automation, you fucking dumbasses. They don't want to pay somebody $35 an hour to stand there and press a button. It doesn't take skill to stand there and press a freaking button on a press machine. Sorry. All of this stuff can be automated. All of it can be automated.
Well, see, I'm the one that has to monitor that automation and maintain it all. Yeah. And I don't even get paid $35 an hour. I mean, for God's sake, tell me where I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those that, again, you want me to raise your wage. You want to negotiate a wage, okay.
And these,
I'm fine with that. But if I'm not raising prices for the product that you produce, I can't maintain profits for paying you that wage.
This is
so if you'd like me to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Like I said, but if every time I raise your wage, it is justifiable to some degree, not the extreme like a lot of corporations do, but it's justifiable for some degree for me to raise the cost of that product if I'm paying a higher wage to produce whatever it is.
Yeah. This here it says.
And if I'm not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I'm not. But if I'm not. Oh no. But if I'm not raising the cost of that product, and I'm going to automate, guess what? Automation means less employees. So you're right. The cost of the product stays the same, but my workforce deteriorates.
Well, yeah, and these unions, they're just doing it. Like, you can't, once again, like I feel like there's this logical distinction that people cannot possibly make is you can't be pro automation from a moralistic standpoint. I've already stated that moral argument. If we can
Exactly.
eliminate as
There
much
you lose
human,
jobs.
if you eliminate as much human suffering as possible, in your society, and that means getting rid of essentially getting rid of all jobs would be great. We shouldn't really, have to do much of anything. We don't, and I also don't think that people should have to work specifically for a company in order to be guaranteed prosperity. And whether that's you own
Exactly.
your own company or you work for a company, you shouldn't need to necessarily do that.
Squirrel climbs down a tree, grabs a nut. Guess what? He takes it back up his tree, and he's a happy guy.
But I mean,
he didn't work much for his day.
At the same time, there needs to be some rules in that so that we don't, generate a society of squalor. There has to be motivations still put in place. But the point that I was going to say is like, automation is the future because of this moralistic prerogative for us to make it so that people aren't stuck on these jobs. It's not necessary for people to necessarily do those things that most people just don't really want to do because they don't benefit as much from it. Like even a doctor that doesn't have their own practice would rather be a doctor with their own practice for the exact reason of they're going to make more money. So why would anybody make the argument of, well, it's completely lazy and fucking stupid that you would not want to work for Walmart and run a cash register, which is something that can be automated? Why would you think that it's stupid that people don't want to push a broom around to clean up particulates that settle onto the floor? I don't know, because a Roomba can fucking do it, a $500 machine. And if you have industrial ones, it's like, what, $10,000 maybe? I mean, I'm just saying, it makes no sense to put people through those jobs when we can allow them the freedom to do other things. And it's going to require change, and it's going to require people to think outside the box of what they've grown up hearing.
But yet the person that makes $12 an hour pushing that broom says, no, I want $15 an hour. Well, for $13 an hour over the next 5 years, I can completely eliminate your position. So, no, you're let go. I'll have a robot do it for you. And they say, well, I don't have a job now because you pushed yourself out of that job.
Yeah, and it's funny too because, of course, you're branded as like some evil individual. Look at the bouncing box. It's stuck on the bottom. Anyway.
Oh yeah, it's a little glitchy. It's not going up or down anymore. It's just doing left or right.
Anyhow. So what I was going to say is you're branded automatically as just some evil individual. You're just like the worst of the freaking worst. You're stealing people's prosperity by saying that unions are ineffectual for what they're, people praise them for. And this is like a perfect example. So paying somebody $7.25 as a minimum wage, which I don't agree with. I think we should change it, but I think we should also make bigger changes so that we don't have to worry about this problem whenever we get cut on the hump afterwards.
Correct. You have to change policies before you can change wage.
But the thing that I was going to say is like going and raising these wages, whether or unionizing. So like, what do you think is going to happen? We already see it happen in the current wage market at Amazon. What do you think is going to happen when these Amazon plants go over and unionize? It's like, they're not thinking about the long term here. Your union ain't going to matter jack shit if the entire place is automated. And who has plenty of fucking money to automate? Amazon. So all they're doing is just delaying the inevitable. Everybody is over there, woohoo, cheering, and all these, Democratic, senators and, representatives, etc. They're just, just hooting and hollering, and you're just a complete dipshit and an asshole of an individual if you might ever have anything against that, because those workers are in undue duress. And I could admit that, like it probably sucks to work at Amazon. But at the same point, unions aren't going to solve the problem. All those people are going to be out of jobs. Like they might get a few years of decent pay if they unionize, but ultimately it's just going to end to the same result, and nobody's doing anything to solve that problem. They're just
Yep,
worrying
within
about
10
fucking unions.
Yeah, within 10 years, the automation would make it to where the union no longer existed. They wouldn't need them.
Yeah,
You would have maintenance. You would have maintenance and PM mechanics for their automation,
right.
and that would essentially be your plant.
And we go back to the same thing that Milton Friedman said in 1970 something, late 70s.
It was late 70s, early 80s, yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
So anyway, he was saying that unions do not help unskilled workers. And there's a reason for that. Is because unskilled workers do not have the bargaining power to unionize privately. And that's why the whole entire argument falls flat on its fucking face of trying to say that, oh, well, we can just private union everything. Let's just private union. Everybody get in a private union. Jesse, get in a private union. You already are. Jason, get in a private union. Autumn, she's in school. I don't care. Get in a private union. It's not going to fucking solve anything because none of those private unions for any unskilled work is going to have a jack shit of bargaining power. And ultimately, what's going to happen is people that need to actually feed their fucking families are just going to go and get a job outside of a union because they can't stand upon these ignorant principles of just holding their ground on this private union argument.
Yeah, it would work if they were private, but even the union that, like I said, I am a part of, just because I don't want to be, I don't feel like being what I consider a freeloader and taking benefits of something I don't pay into when everyone else has to pay into it. But if it was a union that was privatized for our plant, we might get somewhere. For our area, we might get somewhere. But no, it's the BCTM. I can't even remember what the hell. That's how active I am. I don't even really recall exactly what the whole thing is, but bakery, confectionery, and all this. Guess what? No, it's a national union that is for profit, not for the worker. And damn, I should have looked this up earlier. I even thought of it and then just spaced it. I should have looked up what the CEO or the head organizer of this union makes every single year.
Well, yeah, and that's where my argument on Facebook regularly comes out is like, essentially from my standpoint, being a person who has been a skilled worker and worked in a union plant and not paid union dues because of the justification here is, why would I pay a fat cat to protect me from a fat cat? It's like,
exactly, and that's the general argument. And guess what? No one understands it.
You're perpetuating the problem that you're trying to fight. At that point,
I guarantee if I looked up my local and their CEO, and it's public information what he probably made. Shit, he probably made $5 million last year.
Yeah.
Just to sit there at the head of the table and say, should we raise union dues from $8.35 a week to $9.15 a week?
Well, they're not.
Why sure that'll give me a raise, so why not?
Well, here's the thing too, that unions once again make it just ineffectual, or are ineffectual for this reason, is they in essence, by default of just the way that a union is, causes this tribalistic thing to happen where you have obviously the salaried employees, which are typically not in the union unless you're talking about teachers or something like that, but we're talking about like plants. Traditionally, the salary employees would not be.
Exactly, and all of our salary supervisors, are not allowed to be part of the union. That is a salaried position. It's not hourly. You have no bargaining rights.
Right. So the point that I'm trying to make is it automatically from the get-go creates this adversarial workplace inherently.
It does.
And I don't notice that as much. I still notice it, but I feel like it was accentuated even worse after working multiple places before I became, white collar. There was not really that adversarial situation. It wasn't they're just, a company man just trying to fight against the union and, but I saw that shit on a daily basis when I worked for a union plant. There was always somebody, claiming some absurd conspiracy crap about how the company man's just trying to keep the union dog down or whatever. And it's like, listen here, dude, shut the fuck up. You have no idea what you're talking about. They've obviously never worked at, you know, any other job, or they've worked at so few jobs, or they're just dishonest. You know, they would have to at that point
Yeah.
if they worked at other places. Me being a
On
person
top,
who has non-white collar, still blue collar, working at other places, non-union, never did I ever worry about losing my job if I messed up. Never did I ever worry about getting paid less pay, because I got paid more pay. And I never, once again, if I got in trouble and I did it, I just admit I did it. And you get a write-up and it's done. You know? It blows my mind, this adversarial situation. It's not productive.
Yeah, it's either me or you, or oh, I do this one way, you do it another way. Oh, just because your job is easier than mine because you do it a different way, and
Yeah.
I'm not skilled enough to make the same adjustments to where my job is just as easier as the guy next to me. Oh, what are they doing wrong? How can I be the tattletale? How can I, get rid of this person because they don't do as much work, or it doesn't seem as they do as much work as I do.
Well, I mean, you can get in trouble for doing too much work.
Oh, exactly. You go over quota and you just offended someone because they do the minimum.
Yep.
You do, so many over quota. Oh well, now we gotta slow the shift down. So we're gonna pay the 5 people on this line next shift the same amount of money to do, say, 15% less work for the next 8 hours.
Well, once again here, so like in that particular job that I am remembering, is you had to keep up with a specific quota. It was that place over in Hamilton. You had to keep up with a specific quota, and you were doing very often just ergonomically absurd, repetitive jobs. Where you're twisting, you're bending, you're standing there for long periods of time. I'm just saying, like, why would it be the case that somebody would say, hey, those guys over there in Hamilton, they ain't getting paid well enough to do this repetitive, job. Let's unionize. Well, what's that going to solve? Well, at least they'll get better pay. It's like, well, who gives a shit about their pay? Maybe just eliminate the job entirely so that they don't destroy their bodies. And when they're grandparents, they can actually lift their grandkids over their head. How about that? Like, that makes more sense. But everybody wants to think it's about the wage and all this. It's like, look, guys, you shouldn't have to sell your body's capabilities in the long run for money. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your health for money. Is that a controversial comment that I'm making?
I mean, not that I can see, but there's a lot of people that don't understand logic, and they would make the argument that...
Yeah. That's a little passive-aggressive. But, I mean, yeah, they obviously don't understand, or maybe they haven't thought of the point, just like, before. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think we've pretty well covered a few subjects very well. Like, we've gone in depth on a few subjects rather than jumping to a bunch. But do you have any kind of final scotias of information that you would like to share?
Oh, you know me. I don't have much information to share unless we get on a topic.
Okay.
The only bit of information I can give is anybody that listens, reach out to Jason. Give him your difference in opinion. We can do a little research, even if it's on the exact same topic.
Yeah,
we might have the exact same discussion, and guess what? I might be on the other side of the fence next time.
Well, yeah, and so one thing I'll say on that is, if any questions come back, specifically for Jesse or whatever, I think majority of them will probably be targeted my way. But point being is if there's enough questions, if there's like enough discussion on this, I've got a Discord. We can add more people, as long as it's civil, obviously. If it gets out of hand, it'll be shut down immediately. But if people are willing to have a civil intellectual conversation on these subjects, by all means, give me a contact, information or whatever. Shoot me a message on, Discord or on Facebook, and we'll make it happen. But ultimately, want to say, Jesse, thanks for joining me. It's been
Anytime,
fun,
sir. Anytime.
As usual. Maybe one of these days I'll come out and visit. But
maybe one. Can't guarantee it, but it's possible.
Yeah. But switching to the audience, if this is content that you like, please like me on Facebook, my page, The Smoogley, on Facebook. Please give me a like on there and a follow if you would. And then on YouTube, please give me a subscribe if you are so inclined. But at a minimum, please like the video if you liked it, and throw some comments down there. We are looking for some discussion, and we haven't got a whole lot of it yet, but I'm hoping one of these days the floodgates will open and we'll just get all these glorious questions. We'll just shower ourselves. I'll be like the McDuck or whatever, the Scrooge McDuck or whatever, that had all of the money, and I'll be swimming in questions.
I welcome the day when we get a question and both of us are silent for 30 seconds straight.
Just
Yeah. Please wait.
All right, well, that's the show. I'll catch you all later.
Yep.
Thanks
As
for
Ron
listening.
Burgundy would say, keep it classy, San Diego.
Bye.
Bye.